So the term brand really is sort of indicative of most iconic organizations. You know, when you think about Starbucks or Apple or McDonald's, we recognize what their brand is. But what Amber and I are intending to share with you today is, this is me incorporated. You know, when we think about ourselves as individuals, whether we are just starting out in our work life or whether we have advanced, doesn't matter. We are a brand, and we wanted to be able to sort of share some thoughts about what a brand is and how we can be incredibly intentional about the perception, for the most part, people have about us, because a brand is about an experience. So that's really the premise for our conversation today. Yeah, and as Amber mentioned, you know, we've got some questions that we're going to pose because we really want this to be interactive. So yeah, this is going to be a good, hearty discussion.
Yes, great. So I see a few folks joined us. I just want to welcome Anna. It's her first time joining us, I believe. And Anna is a good friend and client of mine as well. So I'm happy to have her with us. And Lamonda, welcome. And Lisa, welcome as well. And Jamie and Faith and Stephanie and Mindy and Christina and Julia. So good. We got a good group. We're going to go ahead and get in. I'm going to share my screen with a presentation that we have prepared. And again, this is just to give us some talking points, and we really want to make this a discussion and hear from you. So please keep that in mind.
Oh, you probably know that, yeah.
You know, I'm not always in PowerPoint, Michelle. Which would you go with, normal outline or normal view?
You want to go to, oh gosh, I'm used to a Mac. You just want to, slideshow, there you go.
There we are, okay.
Yeah, but you want to scroll up because this is the first part. This isn't the one we will be reviewing.
Okay.
There we go. I think that's it.
That's it?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's all right. We can use this one. It's the one with the little girl's image. Did you get this off of?
It's in our Zoom. Yeah, I mean, it's in our
Dropbox?
Dropbox, yeah. How about I take us off? How about we just go, we'll just talk through it for now so we don't. Yeah. So guys, I'll be transparent and just let you know, I'm traveling and in a different space and a different, I'm in Detroit right now, different Wi-Fi. And so my stuff is a little wacky right now. So thanks for your patience and bearing with us. But
here's the thing, because I'm a co-host, I can share my screen.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
That's what partners are for.
Yes.
Do you see
Teamwork
this?
makes the dream work.
There you go.
Oh, Lamonda, thank you.
There you go. We're good?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right. Do you want to kick it off or do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. I'll tap in. So Me Inc. and the Rethink. A reason for us naming it that is that we're encouraging you today to rethink of the way that you're looking at yourself and consider yourself as a brand. In this digital age, we all have a representation of ourselves online somewhere, right? Mostly all of us. So we've got bios out there. We've got a LinkedIn page. We've got our Facebook or our Instagram page. And so the world is able, or as many people as you allow to follow you, to have a glimpse in on you. And so a part of our discussion today is around being intentional with defining how you are perceived and how you're viewed, what your brand is, what you're known for, and being deliberate with that so that it's not being defined for you. So that's what we'll be discussing today.
So I just want to add to that. So I know Amber just made reference to our presence or our brand on social media, but we also want you to be thinking about it in terms of any of our interpersonal relationships within our family, within our social circle. So it's certainly in any way that we're showing up within any platform. This is what we want to get you presence to, is when you're showing up as a brand, what are people experiencing? So that it's very, again, deliberate, and it leaves little to interpretation in terms of how people experience you. We don't want perceptions, we want deliberate intention. Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's key. It's key. So I love this picture of this sweet little face, because this is here, excuse me, to just underscore that we are all brands. As individuals, we are iconic, right? It's not just left to organizations and iconic brands, but, you know, again, a brand is a promise of an experience that individuals, whether they be customers, clients, co-workers, family members, it's a promise of an experience that they will get through their interaction of us. And if we want it to be what we intend it to be, that message, that experience, then knowing exactly kind of what you want your brand to represent is key. Advancing, here we go. There we go, okay. You want to take a stab at this one, Amber?
Yeah, so this, as I mentioned just in an introduction, passive or deliberate intention. Passive is allowing our brands to be defined by others by not taking the initiative to really make it more clear what we stand for. And I liken this to how companies make it clear about what they stand for. And what do companies do? They come up with their mission, and they communicate what their mission is, oftentimes through their website or even through their communications. Their communications will tie back to their mission. And so within their mission, they're establishing what their values are. And I'm encouraging us to look at ourselves in the same way. What are your values? What are your strengths? What do you want to be known for? What's your purpose? Your personal version of a mission would be your purpose. And so you're taking that and incorporating it into your vision. So with what your strengths are, with everything that you stand for, what does that mean for your vision? Where are you going? Are you just out here taking things by chance, or are you very deliberate and intentional about the direction that you're going in your career, the opportunities that you're entertaining? And I can relate to this so much with even just what's going on in my life, being able to prioritize the opportunities that we go after and looking at, does this fit my mission? Does this fit my purpose? And asking ourselves those questions. So Michelle, I would love to have you weigh in, and then also open up at this point for discussion of how this resonates with folks, and get from some of you who are on with us how you look at your purpose and how that directs you in the decisions that you're making in your career and in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that we want to underscore for you all, and we want to hear from whoever chooses to want to speak, is, you know, the mission, to Amber's point, is about certain characteristics. You know, what do you value? What's your purpose? With what your God-given gifts, talents, skills, and abilities are, what is it that, why you're here, right? And then the vision is, if you were to transport yourself to the future, and that future could be a year from now, or could be 5 years from now, what's the vision that you have for yourself in your life? Because to be deliberate about your brand, in some instances, is about starting to breathe life into it now. There may be things that have to happen and manifest before that actual vision is made real and birthed into reality, but it's so beneficial and valuable if you begin to think about, you know, what's the vision that you have for yourself. So let's pose our first question. And I don't have access to the chat, so certainly feel free to unmute yourself. But with any of you on the call today, what, you know, if you want to share what you know your mission and your vision to be, if you feel comfortable in sharing it with us. Feel free to unmute.
Yeah, Stephanie says she would like to share. Yeah, Michelle, actually, if you could unshare your screen for the discussion so we can see each other, then we can see Stephanie as she talks as well. Stephanie, are you unmuted? You can go ahead and share with us.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear that lovely voice. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello. Okay, let me just apologize because I don't know if you can hear, but there is a hip hop concert going on right outside my window. It was totally quiet. I said, oh, I'm getting ready for Michelle and Amber. Let me set up. The moment you guys went live, the very moment you went live, the Jeep pulled up. So you can hear them. So they're providing the soundtrack to my sharing with you.
Well,
So,
we'll take it. We love it. That works.
here is my dilemma. My love is storytelling and communicating with people and sharing energy on that front. That's my dream. So every opportunity that I've embraced recently and not so recently, I have to filter it through how it plays into the roadmap that I'm setting for myself. And sometimes the math doesn't make sense. Like I'll get an opportunity and it's like on paper, this doesn't make sense. But in the grand scheme of where you ultimately want to be, it does. Here is what I'd like to propose to my wonderful folks in this group, because I need your help. My dream is storytelling. Michelle knows about it, audiobooks. But what I do very, 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 very well, like in my sleep, is creating streamlined processes. So my question is, how do I combine the two so that I can move forward where I ultimately want to be? And that's where I struggle. And I'm going to mute because the hip hop concert continues.
Got it. Okay, this is really good. I'm going to take a stab at it, and I'm sure Amber's got some food for thought. So you said that your sort of vision and what it is that you want to breathe life into is your storytelling, but what you're really good at is streamline processing. I know you're muted.
Yes, that's me. That's it.
Yeah, okay. So here's a thought. So when you think about storytelling is it comprises a process, because when we're telling a story, we sort of have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So when you think about not only your ability to storytell, you probably intuitively know how to put the sequence of that story together so that it in fact is not only entertaining, but that people can kind of follow along as if they're with you. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you probably have an innate ability to incorporate or integrate your streamlining process capabilities in your storytelling method. So I guess the question is, do you want to start to train other people on how to storytell, or is it you wanting to understand what your intellectual property is for you to be the storyteller, and are you truly anchoring it to what you know you're good at, and that is streamlined? So which is it?
Well, I think the Jeep drove off. Thank goodness. Okay, so notice how quiet it is now. Isn't that wonderful? Well, I think that I thought long about this, and I said one way I could live in both worlds is if I could get an opportunity within either a nonprofit, a media company, a podcast production company, or something like that, where I could use my skill of process management. Oh, they're screaming now. Okay, great. Please hold. Okay, where I could use my skill of process management within that actual environment. So that's what I've been sort of pushing myself to do to seek out opportunities within the environment of where I ultimately want to be, but bring what I do well at this present moment to that environment to help them succeed as I continue to grow. Is that a good approach?
It is. It is. And I think it goes to what I was referencing, but now that I know that you want to be able to apply your capabilities within an organization, a nonprofit, or podcasters, et cetera. So you're providing a service and a possible solution around, storytelling. So whether it's a podcaster who, has their own stories or wants to extract stories from those that they're interviewing, what I'm hearing, Stephanie, is you probably have an innate ability to create sort of a storyline or a process around what comprises a story. Again, it's like in advertising, you have, what do they call it in advertising? It's sort of like screenshots. It's a screenplay. So I think
A storyboard.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very similar to that. It's helping other people know how to construct their story in a cohesive way. So that's what I'm hearing. That's how you could possibly align your streamlining processing capabilities and offer it as this is what I can help you, podcaster, or you within any organization, nonprofit, or others to do. Does that answer a bit?
That definitely. No, I think that's spot on, because that's a win-win for both parties. I may not have one particular skill set yet, but that's ultimately where I want to go. But I can bring this to you in the present day, and you can benefit from this as I continue to grow, and we all win that way. So that's ultimately what I would like to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it's such a great example of what the Japanese call as the ikigai, and it's taking the intersection of your strengths, your skills, your experiences, and your interest, and looking at what lies at the core of that. And that's really what is, if you're bold enough, that really is what your brand, that's discovering your brand, and what your brand can be based on is your unique set of skills and strengths and interests and experiences, and how you build upon that. And that doesn't have to look traditional like what other people have done. I find that, we stand out the most when we really embrace our authenticity and we really show up fully expressed as who we are. Because if we try to show up as someone else, we can't do that job. We can only be the best me that we can be. And so, Stephanie, what I hear you saying is that you have these puzzle pieces that at first glance might not so easily fit together, but you are the author of the puzzle or the book. You get to fit those pieces together, and then eloquently, as you do, explain to an organization or a nonprofit or whoever you're working with why that makes you unique and why that makes you a great fit because of what you offer that may not be as traditional or may not be as cookie cutter as the rest.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's nice to sometimes you think you understand it and you think you kind of got it together, but when you throw it over the wall to someone who's totally separate from it and you hear it coming back at you, it's a great feeling to know, like, I am not crazy. Yes, this does make sense. Okay, very good. During the world pandemic, yes. Excellent. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. No, thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have any thoughts or questions or inquiries they'd like to pose?
Well, similar to the background in process streamlining, this is Nia speaking, and I'm looking to move from corporate to my own personal type of services, and just trying to present myself correctly and create this brand of being independent versus working for a corporation and representing their brand is very important to me in becoming an entrepreneur. So I just like hearing what you had to say to Stephanie as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Nia, I'm glad that you brought that up because we can speak specifically to that. We're going to talk we're talking about discovering your brand now, and then we'll move into developing your brand and communicating your brand, and then maintaining your brand. So in the developing and the communicating, we'll be sure to speak more to that in your process and moving from corporate to entrepreneur. So thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Michelle, shall we move on to developing your brand?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You want to speak to that, or?
Sure. Do we need to go back with the PowerPoint? We'll just keep it. We can just stick with how we are. Is that good for you?
That's fine. Yeah, especially since it does not enable us to kind of see the Brady Bunch composite here. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see your faces.
So here, we want to give you context. What Amber and I are going through now is what we call the 4 steps of the branding process. So the first one that we just made reference to was step 1, which is discover your brand, right? What is it? Your God-given gifts, talent, skills, abilities, a lot of what Nia and Stephanie made reference to. And now we're into step 2, which is developing your brand.
Great.
Okay.
So I'll chime in. So when you think about developing your brand, what is really critical is, if you're not branding yourself, you could be rest assured that other people will do it for you. So that's where being very deliberate about what you want to represent. I'll make reference. I had a coaching session earlier today with a senior level executive of a pretty large enterprise organization. And she is looking to develop her brand in a way that dispels the perception that people have of her. So, one of the things that we did through this exploration is, what is it? Again, I always go back to this promise. I asked her, what is the promise that you want people to have of you? And one of the things that she made reference to is she wants people to see her as collaborative and altruistic. She wants people to know, like, and trust her. And oftentimes, because she is so good at what she does, she sometimes is not coming across as collaborative. And subsequently, what she now wants to ensure is that she is, even in her verbal communication, using the term we instead of I, and making sure that she recognizes when she's making a suggestion, she's anchoring it to what's in it for them. We call it in coaching the WIFM, WIIFM. So with whatever it is that you want people to experience you as, extract those characteristics, those values, those behaviors, and look to make sure that you're deliberate in both your communication and in your actions, that you're demonstrating what that brand is.
Mm-hmm. And so with that said,
insights from other people, if you're not sure, how people are perceiving you, you can do a survey. I mean, not literal, but you can kind of use family and friends as a focus group, so to speak. Ask them for some feedback. So, what do you think of me, and what do you think my strengths are, and all that stuff. That really kind of helps you develop your brand. Amber, you had a point?
Yeah, I was going to say I did a really interesting exercise when I was pivoting. So for those of you who may not know, for 11 years, I had a designer dog apparel and accessory company called Cane and Couture. I built this business as my second business. Before that, I was doing events, and I had an event marketing company. And so after going on Shark Tank, I got a lot of entrepreneurs reaching out and asking me to help to mentor them. And I got schools inviting me to come and speak to their kids. And that's when I started to realize that I love doing that more than I love the business that I had formed. And I decided I wanted to pivot. But there were these voices in my head of, how am I going to pivot from the pet industry into full-fledged working in wellness and personal development? And so I had to quiet those voices, and there's a process that I did in doing that. So I want to share that with you. One of the things that I did, I went to my Facebook and I asked people to say the top 3 words that come to mind when they think of me. And I got back probably 30 or 40 responses. And so many of the responses of people were not anything in fashion or pet industry related. They were more related to my character, the way I show up and support people, the way I'm always there to help people, and personal growth and my positivity. And their responses were very much so rooted in that, which for me made me feel good that, okay, my brand is already representing where my pivot is going. So this is natural. This wouldn't come far left to anyone. Another thing that I started to do was, in communicating who I was, I started widening that scope, where I didn't just go from the pet industry into personal development. I made my bios. I went into the communication of how I was communicating on my social media platform, and I changed my bios and started to introduce this other area of work that I was leaning into. And I gradually moved into the space. It wasn't like an overnight thing. I started with doing wellness retreats while I had my other business, and I did camps for girls in schools, and I got the feel for it and really got my confidence in that space, where I could start to reference the activities, the focus, the way I was changing my focus just naturally, publicly, not just on social media, but in real life. Hey, this is what I'm doing and I'm enjoying it, and talking about it and communicating that more. And that really helped me to make the transition with it being like a smooth transition. Additionally, where I met Anna, who's on the call now, I went and educated myself in developing your brand. If you're changing, if you're pivoting, or even if you're still in the space where you are, you may need to go and get further education. We should always be learning and growing, right? And so a good way of doing that, if you're not going back to school for a degree, is to look at certifications and certifying yourself within the space that you are, that you want to grow in, or within the space that you want to grow into. And so I went and got certifications in positive psychology and certifications in coaching and positive education, and these things that really helped to arm me. I developed a new toolbox to speak to this brand that I was developing. So no matter where you are in the process, your brand is your expertise. And so a part of developing your brand is the education behind that, and what you put in your toolbox to speak to who you are and what people know you for. And what you're known for is really going to be key in what opportunities people bring your way. The more that you can communicate, and that's moving into the next step, so I don't want to move too quickly without living in this developing in your space, but the more you communicate what your brand is clearly and effectively, the more people know what opportunities to bring to you. Michelle, we had a few really great questions, and I can't see them, but there was one around what people think about you. I'm going to try to do it without butchering, but I may need you to help me.
I can read it. I've got access to it.
Okay.
The question was, how do you think others describe you?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So is anyone, because we want to make this a collaborative conversation, anybody want to sort of just share an answer to that question? How would you think others describe you? Mia?
Well, I feel my social friends may not describe me based on my professional experiences because they've been so separate. Socially, I think people would describe me as positive, fun, maybe funny, and just everything that's fun. But what happens is when you want to show the professional side, I sometimes feel that maybe that's not understood because of my experience just working in corporate that's just so separate from my social. So looking to bring that professional side to how I'm perceived all the way around.
Okay, so we want to help you there. And this goes back to what Amber referenced prior. You are the common denominator, meaning who you are in your social sphere is still who you are within your professional sphere. And what we want to try to avoid as best we can is not feel as if we have to be two different people. When you make reference, Nia, to being positive and fun and friendly and all of those really good energy experiences that I'm sure you exude as well as what people experience, there's absolutely a way to infuse that. Now, you shared that you're looking to pivot and move from corporate into entrepreneurship, but even within being a business owner and putting that entrepreneur cap, you're still going to be in more of a professional setting than you are in a personal setting, right? So what we're advocating for you is that aspect of your personality that's fun and friendly and positive. It's okay to bring that to your work life. Quite honestly, I think we need more of that because, when we think about the number of hours and the days of the week and the weeks of the year that we spend working with colleagues and customers and clients, we want that levity. So what we're advocating for you is take all of those things that are so inherent in you and feel that it's okay to incorporate that. We're not talking about you cracking jokes, at a meeting necessarily, unless you think the form is appropriate, but ultimately bring your true self to what role you're playing. Sometimes it's actually modeling and inviting other people to do that. Sometimes in business, we get caught up in, if it's a culture and a current that's just so stiff and staticky, we feel that we can't no, we want to. And sometimes we may have to be the first to do it. So again, we just want to invite you to bring that aspect of who you are, the core of NIA, to, this new business model that you're looking. If you're still gainfully employed in corporate, begin to sample or experiment with, how to bring that fun infusion aspect to your role. And then even as you pivot and start your own business in the way that you interact with your customers and your clients and your vendors, to bring that positive, fun, and friendly aspect of who you are. It's going to be probably incredibly welcomed, and you will feel like you're in your body.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle, so many good points there. I think what comes up for me when you're saying that, Nia, especially in knowing you personally, is the question of, in your previous work, did you feel that your work values were aligned with your personal values? Your professional values were aligned with your personal values?
Yes, I do. I am naturally a people person, and I'm able to bring people together for a common goal and to work towards the corporate goal through understanding measurements. So I do that with a fun perspective, but I think my challenge is, now that I want to be independent, maybe being perceived professionally when everyone I feel around me may not know that side of me, especially coming from like aerospace and type of work environments that are very separate from what I feel going on around me. Like, I haven't brought my professional side to my social side. So when I reach out to maybe people that I know outside of corporate, it's like, do you understand that I'm capable, in a sense? And I don't know if that's something that I just have to work through personally, but it's like a perception that I want to make understood, that these are things that I can bring to the table outside of a corporation.
Okay, so this is really good. So what we want to anchor you with, Nia, is when you are confident and completely convicted about your capabilities, that's numero uno.
Right.
People will feel that sense of credibility, confidence, when you aren't questioning it yourself. What I'm hearing almost intuitively is, do you see me? Do you see me this way? They will see you in the way you see yourself. Right. So your credibility will show up in the way that you can credibly and with a level of subject matter expertise talk about your business or whatever it is that you're talking about within that professional domain. When you are completely comfortable and confident with who you are, your capabilities, that's the only thing you're going to leave people with.
Right. And currently I want to transition some of my relationships from a social to a profession, to more of a professional circumstance, for me to execute my entrepreneurial goals. So that's important to be able to have that accurate communication. I agree.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that actually is a good transition into our next space in communicating your brand. And Nia, so I want to invite you, along with everyone else as well, to look at how you may take some of the recommendations in communicating your brand and how you could use any of those to now communicate this larger, expanded version of you within your personal space. Yeah. Yeah. So just before we move on to talking about communicating, I just want a couple of the comments in the chat. Stephanie says that people see her as outgoing and extroverted, but she's also extremely analytical and can live inside of her head. That's when she really gets quiet and her friends get unsettled because her energy changes and she can be laser beam focused. She's a superhero. Yeah, that's me, is what she says. I love that. And I think that really speaks to the duality that we can represent as people, that we don't have to be inside of a box, that we can have both sides. We can be left brain and right brain, either or. Life is a spectrum, and oftentimes balance, the healthy balance in between is the healthier space, is a healthy space to be. But we're going to weigh to one side or the other, and that may change at different points in our lives, but embracing all of what makes us us is again where that special sauce is. So Stephanie, I'm glad that that duality brings out the superhero in you. So I loved your comment for that, because I think it really expresses how we can feel when we really feel fully expressed. We are also welcoming Lisa. Lisa is a guest of Lamonda, and Lamonda, you are one of our faithfuls, and so we're happy that you're spreading the word and inviting your friends to join us. So hi, Lisa. Welcome, and USC in the house. Ow. And then, yes, we're opening up to Lisa. Lisa, we want to encourage you to include yourself in the conversation as well, and maybe we'll pose a few questions to you on the next slide, so get ready to unmute yourself if you'll join in our conversation. So with that, our next step in defining your brand is communicating your brand. It's a little loud in the background here, guys. I'm sorry. I'm in Michigan. My kids are playing in the back. It's a part of my brand, my children. So actually, I won't apologize. I'll just ask you to embrace them as I do. So in communicating your brand, how do you do that? If you are new or established in your space, you're looking at the circles that you're putting yourself in, right? Who are you going? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you networking with? Like-minded individuals that will relate to your work or see the worth and value in what you're doing. Are you looking for opportunities to volunteer? Are you looking for opportunities to write or to do any public speaking? You may be able to, even within a smaller space, that you don't have to be on the largest stage, but if you know of someone who's doing an event and that event is aligned with your brand, with who you are and your strengths and what you represent, then you may want to put yourself out there and suggest, hey, I can be a speaker for your event. Coming up with your keynote speeches. My website is amberleeforrester.com. That's my personal website. I also have my business website, quartzwellnesscollective.com. But I have my list of 5 keynote speeches that I give, so that if someone goes on and they look to have me come and speak to their organization, they can already see right there defined what it is that I can speak to their organization or their school or their group about. And so I make it easy for them in saying, like, here are the topics. Of course, I can go outside of those topics, but this is the core of what I want to be known for, my core expertise. Michelle, I'm going to ask if you would address some of the other ones. I don't want to take this whole slide.
No. This is great. I always learn. Whenever you talk, I always learn.
Same here.
Hello. Communicating my brand, I also think about how I'm depicted on social media as well as out in public. So, 15 years ago, when I started my practice, and actually even now, I'll fast forward to the present, I'm very mindful of, especially with social media being so pervasive, Facebook is more like a barbecue sort of social setting, and LinkedIn we know is, sort of uber professional. So when it comes to sometimes me wanting to even post something about me personally on Facebook, I'm very sensitive to how it's going to be interpreted by potential clients or just people in general, right? So, I'm not going to necessarily be kind of at a bar just holding up a drink. Now, that's not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but when it comes to the brand that I want to represent, I certainly want people to know I have a life outside of my profession. But at the end of the day, we are story-making machines, and we have to be deliberate about, the pictures or even the posts that we make, so that it does match more of what and who we are. And the same thing goes for being out in public. I have a particular quirkiness about me that even when I'm at the supermarket, I dress in a particular way. I'm not in a suit or a dress. I may be in, casual clothes, but I'm looking a particular way because you just never know what conversation you may strike up, who may be standing behind you. This is prior to COVID, of course. On the checkout line at Stop and Shop, or, getting a mocha latte at Starbucks. But my presence, my brand is going to look in a particular way that says, even as they're scanning me visually, oh, okay, this is a woman who, seems to be elegant and graceful and whatever. That's the brand I want to exude. So that's just, something that you also want to be mindful of, is how you're portraying yourself, both in social media as well as in life and in person. Thanks.
Also, oh, go ahead. Someone was going to say something?
Yeah.
No, I was just agreeing with what Michelle said. I recently deleted my Facebook because I'm like, I'm just too much fun on Facebook, and I need to create this image and brand that I really want to be seen and perceived as, because it's not just fun for me. And Facebook is a tool of communication. Like you said, it is more of a casual tool, but still, your perception is reality. So it's important to make sure that that's accurate with what you want.
Right.
Yeah. And also just, Nia, just still being true to who you are and not feeling like you have to in any way not embrace the fun side of you, because it's a part of what makes you who you are, and you wouldn't feel totally fulfilled if you were to neglect that side of you. Yeah, I hear you looking for opportunities to balance that. And so where you have the fun side, it's not getting rid of that, but it's balancing it with the professional side as well, and leaning into that space and what that could look like for you. So
Right.
in anything that I mentioned, like writing or speaking or the way you're representing yourself online, we talked about, but writing, speaking, networking, volunteering, do any of those stand out to you as a way, or any other ways stand out to you as a pathway to start to redefine or expand the way people look at you?
They do, and I do involve myself in the community, and I'm very much involved with supporting my daughter in her journeys, and I put out these different images. However, I feel that they're so randomly put out. It's like, what is the ultimate message that I'm trying to portray? So I am wanting to brand myself more deliberate, hence, being on this call, so that I'm creating the path that I really want to go down, or creating the opportunities to come to me for my entrepreneurial efforts versus just working for someone else and then executing myself that way. So yeah, I want to find that balance so that I can have both represented fairly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just so that we don't leave this out, your resume and your bio, and looking at how you reword them. And I hear you about Facebook, and so maybe this is how you're representing yourself on LinkedIn. But your resume gives you the opportunity to look at your experience and kind of reorder what stands out and highlighting what stands out in your bio and your resume to bring more attention to it. You may want to give a look to both your bio and your resume and look at how could you restructure it in order to support the expanded version of you. If you're pivoting, how can you restructure your resume to highlight some of the strengths that you may, or the skills that you may have been building within this other space and how that applies to the space that you're moving into. There are going to be some what is the word? Transferable skills that you can speak to that will help you in that expansion or that pivot into your new space or the stronger definition of your brand.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, did you have anything else
to the next in terms of the unique value proposition and differentiation?
Yes.
Yeah. So when we think about branding, it sort of encompasses an element of your personal mission, and that is what makes you different. You know, we have some unique aspect of who we are that is completely different than anybody else, right? In the same way that our thumbprint is never going to match anyone else's. So you want to think about what is that key differentiator and what's that unique value proposition that, you know, we really want to incorporate as part of our personal brand. For me, I want to be viewed, my unique value proposition, not only as an individual, but certainly as a coach and a talent management consultant, is I want to be seen as a compassionate pit bull. That's my UVP. A compassionate pit bull seems to have a bit of juxtaposition. I am 100% committed to helping people find their voice, to be fully self-expressed, to be original, and yet I'm compassionate about how I do that. So, you know, there are a gazillion coaches out there and empowerment activists, but I know that what I want to bring to that, and again, it's not just what people will experience with me in my professional domain, it's even in my personal life with friends and family. I'm not going to necessarily co-sign your BS or limited beliefs or naysaying attitudes, but I'm going to be compassionate in terms of how I help support you in being your best self. So that's just an example of what my UVP is.
I like that, a compassionate pit bull.
That's so accurate too. Can we, I would love to open up for maybe Lisa, since we're welcoming you. Lisa, if you're available to unmute yourself and share with us your UVP, your unique value propositions, or Anna also, if you're able to unmute, I'd love to invite you all to join in on the conversation as well. May not be unmutable. Mindy, you're next.
Oh.
How about you?
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So to Michelle's point, and to Michelle's credit, I have known her for 30 years. Michelle and I used to work together. And I am a firm believer in that people will associate with personally and on a business level with people that they like and trust. So although Michelle and I lost track for many years, I can tell you 100% that she is 100% the person that I knew her way back when, in terms of her confidence and her style and how eloquent she is when she speaks, her intelligence, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which is one of the reasons that I show up every week, because I love this group. But to the point of, if you're showing up and being yourself, you're ahead of the game. If you know what you like, if you know it works for you, and you know it does not work for you, you are ahead of the game, which is why I feel it's so important that at the foundation of whatever we choose to do, it's got to be something that makes us happy and fulfills us in some way, shape, or form. So again, back to Michelle, it's just a pleasure to be part of this, because that's what Michelle exudes, and that's what she's exuded from the day that I met her. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. But you're right. It's about us being who we are. Even, you know, I go back to you, Nia, because you're on this journey It's when you are confident and convicted about who you are, then that is what people will experience. Yeah, yeah. And it is about being true to ourselves. Thank you, Mindy. Appreciate the kind words.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Michelle.
Anyone who knows Michelle knows this about you. It's just, and so I think you would be the best person, of course, to speak to maintaining your brand, because clearly you have maintained your brand for so many years. So can you please share with us and some of your key ways or strategies or pathways to maintaining your brand?
Okay, I'll make this brief because I know we're coming to the bottom of the hour. So it's interesting because probably the oldest one on this call. So I have decades of being this human, right? And what I uncovered probably right around the time Mindy and I worked together back in the 80s is when I really started to find my voice. Growing up during the civil rights movement, going to a all-white school, but living in a housing project, I had an identity crisis. I lived through an identity crisis because candidly, I was called the nappy-headed kid from the projects with my white schoolmates, and I was called Miss Ann in the projects because my mother, since back in the 60s and 70s, used to dress myself. My sister's 7 years older, so she got to dress the way she wanted, but I had pigtails and patent leather shoes even to go play. So I say that to say what I committed for myself as I looked to it, what I wanted my brand to be, and I didn't even have a name for it, was I want to be myself, because trying to fit in was too difficult. And no matter how hard I tried to be likable, wasn't working. So that's when we have that epiphany, that aha moment of going, you know what? Like Sammy Davis Jr. sings, I just want to be me. So yeah, and I was able to uncover, I want to be kind, I want to be generous, I want to be gracious, but I want to be strong because I want to model that not only for myself, but for other people. So that's sort of in a nutshell how, quote unquote, my brand was born. It came from having really no clue as to who I was and not even being comfortable in my skin. But every story, every life that any of you and all of you have lived serves a purpose. Amber and I talk about this a lot in our group sessions, and that is we all have a story. Sometimes it may be an unfavorable story given circumstances and situations, but we want to stand on our story and not in it. Because from a spiritual perspective, everything that has ever happened to our life has happened to bless us, to give us fodder, something that we are here to learn. And once we learn it, then we can experience the blessing. So, this all is part and parcel of our brand. Let's look at whatever our situation is and not let it define us. But when we stand on our story, we can say, you know what, I am so grateful that that happened, because now I get to be and respond to life in a way that I'm the author of it, as opposed to it defining me.
Oh my gosh, I'm over here welling up with tears. Like, you're amazing, Michelle. And I just want to speak to, as we're closing out, because we're nearing the 1:30 hour, this is such my testimony of why I embrace and celebrate being courageous enough to transition and pivot into this space, because I have the opportunity to work with people like you doing what really makes me happy, instead of being stuck in a space that I was just doing because of how long I had done it. And so, just thank you for sharing the way you do and showing up the way you do. Stephanie says, waving church fan at the laptop. Right? Because it's just such an honor to do this work. And to the fact that this is considered work is a part of why I encourage with anyone that will listen, really, is leaning into your purpose and purpose-driven work, because it really makes a difference in the fulfillment that you get from what you do for a living. Think of that term, for a living. You spend so much of your day working. So in closing, I'll say I encourage you to really be fully expressed, to lean into your purpose, and to find ways to communicate your brand and attract opportunities, and be patient. Like we talked about in the vision boarding session last week, be patient in knowing that the universe rewards you for the decisions that you make in the places where you put your energy. So Michelle, oh, thank you, Maya. Maya says that we both rock, and she needs a bottle of liquid courage. Yes, yes. The liquid courage is the motivation, Maya. Being so motivated by your purpose and by the vision that you have for your future that it pulls you and you just can't stop it. There's your liquid courage. So Michelle, did you want to say anything else before we close?
No, I'm complete. We are going to share with them sort of that what's coming up, and we're taking a bit of a day next week. I'll let you speak to it.
Yes, we're taking a break, y'all. We need a break. This is wonderful. Michelle and I have a lot of opportunities that we just want to make sure that we fully can focus on. And we love doing this, but this is a labor of love for us. And it's something that we put a lot of time and effort to, and we recognize that we need to take a moment to stop and breathe and get our things in order behind the scenes. So we'll be taking off next week and the week after. We're going to update the schedule on the Zoom, and we will have what you can expect from us later in July and in August. We'll mention again, and you guys are going to be the first to be invited to BAM, our Business Accelerator Masterclasses for women business owners. We really have to take the time to focus on that because it's so exciting what we're bringing to you. So keep a lookout in your emails for that if you're business owners and you want to join a group of peers and get group coaching and be more strategic, purpose-driven, vision-driven, and prioritizing your goals and your time and your business. That's what will be the focus of BAM. So yeah, that's all we have for you this week, right? Mm-hmm. Hope that was fulfilling.
So we'll be back on July 22nd. And again, we always encourage you to share with us topics that you want to have us focus in on. Because again, Amber and I will be doing this for as long as people are showing up. We may sort of change the frequency for the most part, but we'll be here for as long as we have an audience and interested participants. So we are very grateful for you guys showing up today, especially the newbies. Julia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I love the call. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys are amazing.
Thank you. Have a happy and safe 4th of July, everyone. Take care. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Happy break.
Yeah,
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.